Welcome to This Explainer. You know, we live in an era where everyone seems absolutely obsessed with expensive gut health fixes. We're constantly bombarded with targeted ads for pricey supplements, complex diets, and elaborate routines, all promising to fix our digestion. But what if I told you the most important part of digestion actually happens before you take a single bite? Today, we are exploring a hidden biological superpower that costs absolutely nothing, yet it completely dictates how your body processes every single meal you eat.
Section 1. The Great Gut Myth, where we debunk some of these modern gut hacks.
To really understand this superpower, we first need to clear the air. If you spend any time on wellness feeds, you'll see people promoting expensive colon cleanses, laxative teas for weight loss, and these extreme detoxes. They sell this myth that your colon is essentially a dirty pipe that needs aggressive purging. But, well, actual gut science tells a completely different story. A healthy colon is meant to be full of diverse microbes and short-chain fatty acids, not flushed out with cayenne pepper and lemon juice. True digestive power doesn't rely on a stomach-first mechanical purge. It relies on a zero-cost neurological process that starts right between your ears.
Section 2. The starter pistol and how your body actually prepares to digest.
Think about this for a second. Have you ever just walked into a kitchen, smelled sizzling onions in a pan, and literally felt your mouth instantly flood with saliva? That is not just a nice feeling. That is quite literally a starter pistol going off inside your body. This phenomenon actually has a scientific name, the cephalic phase of digestion. Cephalic literally means of the head. Over 100 years ago, Ivan Pavlov famously rang a bell and fed his dogs, eventually proving that they would drool and produce stomach juice at the sound of the bell alone, even when no food ever reached their stomachs. He called it psychic secretion. It sounds a bit like magic, but it's really just your brain running a sensory forecast. By simply seeing, smelling, or even just thinking about food, your brain presses the first button of digestion before a single calorie is ever swallowed.
So how does this signal actually travel? Through a biological phone line called the vagus nerve. You can think of the vagus nerve like an executive chef standing in the kitchen calling out, "Prep now! Doors open in 5." It's a master switchboard that takes that sensory forecast from your brain, "Hey, we smell sizzling onions," and rapidly alerts your stomach, your pancreas, and your liver that guests are on the way, prompting them to wake up and get ready.
Section 3. The Digestion Cascade. Once that chef yells prep, an incredible physiological chain reaction kicks off. Here is the four-step sequence that happens almost instantly. First, your saliva surges. And it's not just water, right? It's packed with an enzyme called amylase, which acts as a red carpet to start melting down starches right there in your mouth. Second, your stomach preheats by dropping its pH, meaning it gets highly acidic and ready to break down proteins. Third, your pancreas starts pulling fat-breaking enzymes off its shelves. And fourth, your liver receives a tiny early whisper of insulin. And get this, all of this is happening while you are just looking at your plate.
The really crucial point here is the sheer magnitude of this response. Research shows that a staggering 30 to 40% of your entire metabolic and digestive response is initiated just by your brain's awareness of the meal. You are literally doing a third of the work of digesting your food before it even touches your lips.
To put that into perspective with your stomach acid, the vagus nerve can summon up to a quarter of your stomach's daily 2-liter acid production strictly through head-only cues. This is your body preheating the oven so that your very first bite gets seared, perfectly breaking down proteins instead of just sitting there getting steamed and stagnant. And remember that early insulin whisper we just mentioned? This is called the Cephalic Phase of Insulin Release, or CPIR for short. Within just 2 to 5 minutes of smelling or tasting food, your pancreas releases a tiny nudge of insulin. It's sending a very clear memo to your liver. Glucose is coming, stand by to store. This head start effectively smooths out your blood sugar curve for the first 15 to 20 minutes of a meal. It trims that early spike instead of desperately trying to chase it later. Your body is just incredibly smart.
Section 4. The Distraction Penalty. Let's look at what happens when we short-circuit this highly intelligent system.
This is exactly where our modern lifestyle clashes violently with our ancient biology. To digest properly, your body absolutely must be in a parasympathetic state, what's famously known as rest and digest. This means high vagal tone and optimal acid production. But today, we largely eat in a sympathetic state. We are rushing around, we are stressed out, and most commonly, we are staring at our smartphones, completely scrolled out. When you eat distracted, you mute that vagal phone line. The signal gets fuzzy, your saliva slows down, acid production basically halts, and you completely lose that rolling start we just talked about.
The consequence of this is what researchers refer to as the undigested pool. Listen, you can be eating the absolute cleanest, most expensive organic meal in the world, but if your brain never told your stomach it was coming, you have a major problem. Heavy meals sit completely unprepared in a low-acid environment. They turn into stagnant, fermenting waste in the gut, which causes bloating, gas, and tissue-damaging microinflammation. You quite literally fail to absorb the very nutrients you paid for. Now, there is also a dark side to this brain-gut connection, especially when it comes to that early insulin release, the CPIR. Let's say you're not planning to eat, but you walk through the kitchen and you spot a bag of chips sitting on the counter. Your brain instantly triggers that small insulin release. But here's the catch. Insulin directly stimulates hunger, so suddenly your cravings intensify massively and you haven't eaten a single calorie yet. The mere sight of the temptation triggered a physiological response normally reserved for eating. So what's the takeaway here? If you want to stop mindless snacking, you must keep unhealthy snacks completely out of your visual environment. Out of sight, literally out of mind, and out of your bloodstream.
Section 5. The Cephalic Toolkit. Let's talk about optimizing your digestion.
How do we harness all this incredible biology in our favor? Let's start with a fascinating experiment out of the Netherlands. Researchers had two groups of people eat creamy tomato soup at the exact same rate. One group took small sips with a teaspoon, the other took larger gulps with a tablespoon. Because the teaspoon group was physically putting food into their mouths more frequently, their oral exposure time was nearly double. And the result? The teaspoon group felt full much faster and naturally ate a third less soup. This brilliantly illustrates that chewing longer and taking smaller bites gives your brain more food and resident signals. That boosts diet-induced thermogenesis, meaning you actually burn more calories just processing the food, and you feel fuller faster.
To really implement this yourself, try the 30-second sensory reset. It's wonderfully simple, I promise. Right before your next meal, physically remove your digital distractions. Just put the phone away. Take one deliberate, calming breath to manually push your nervous system into that rest and digest state. Actually look at your food and inhale the aroma. Then, chew your first bite incredibly slowly. By doing this, you are manually giving your brain the clean preview it needs, so the forecast perfectly matches the meal, flooding your stomach with natural digestive acid.
Now, if you want a slightly more advanced hack to reset your system, look at the clove chewing protocol. Taking a single whole clove and chewing it slowly for 60 to 90 seconds after a meal acts as a massive mechanical reset. The intense aroma and flavor stimulate the trigeminal and facial nerves, immediately surging saliva that is rich in buffering enzymes and a really beneficial compound called eugenol. It basically sends a powerful digestion is complete signal right to the vagus nerve, calming your entire nervous system down. Actually, scratch that. Quick safety note first. You shouldn't do this if you have active mouth or stomach ulcers or if you're on strong blood thinners. But for most people, it's a really profound ancient way to attune your neural pathways.
It all really boils down to this philosophy, which perfectly captures the essence of this entire explainer. You're not altering the food, you're enhancing your body's ability to handle it smoothly. We spend so much of our time obsessing over exactly what we are eating, completely ignoring the fact that how we eat is just as biologically critical. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If your brain starts digesting your food before your mouth even takes a single bite, what else is your nervous system quietly controlling in the background while you aren't paying attention? Your body is listening to everything you do and seeing everything you see. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Try that sensory reset at your next meal, and I guarantee your gut will thank you for it.
Follow and subscribe for more.